This is going to be a quick video showing you how I've set up my vector sequencer to run in chord mode with the Disting EX. The Disting EX is specifically running in the Macro Oscillator mode, which is an implementation of the open source Braids module. It provides 4 independent instances of Braids. And the great thing about it, the EX, is that you can configure each of those instances individually. I'm not going to go in that too much today, but what I am going to show you is how to set up chord mode on the vector, and then how I've got the Disting EX set up so that I can send 4 notes from a chord part to play the 4 instances of Braids in the Disting EX. Okay, so the vector side of things, if you've already got one, is pretty straightforward. And I'm sure this will work with other sequences, but you can work that out for yourself if you've got one. So I go to the parts page, and you can see on part 5, I've already configured it in chord mode. Now the way you do that is you just select with this knob here, and then you do shift and clear next to change modes. Look in the manual for that stuff, pretty well explained. Now, if I go back to part 5 and I hit control until I get to sequence control MIDI, this is really important. I've got spread channel set to on. I'm going to explain what that means in just a second, because I need to go to the routing page, and I'm using MIDI output 2, which is native on the vector. So you don't need the expander for this, it's on the vector. MIDI output 2, I've got part 5, which you'll recall is my chord part, on channel 1. So the Disting EX wants me to send each note on a different MIDI channel so that it can then assign it to the different instances of the Macro Oscillator algorithm. And the way that's done is through the channel spread thing that I just set up or showed you a minute ago. Channel spread means that each of the 4 voices in the chord mode will be set on a different channel. And the spread of the channels will start from the MIDI channel I've chosen, which is 1. So voice 1 in part 5 will go on channel 1. Voice 2 in part 5 will go on channel 2. Voice 3 in part 5 will go on channel 3. And voice 4 in part 5 will go on channel 4. That's why it's called channel spread, because instead of sending individual voices all on one MIDI channel, it's sending the individual voices on individual MIDI channels, and those MIDI channels are spread from my main channel or my assigned channel, which is 1. Okay, so that's pretty much the vector setup there. Yeah, I can go to the parts page and pitch, and I've got a little bit of a thing configured here. I'm just going to play it for you so you can see the absolute lack of musical genius that I was experiencing prior to making this video. We'll just start with a kick. Oh, and that. And here come the chords. Here come the chords. And as I said, better without the beat, wasn't it? Yeah, I regret that. So anyway, that's 4-note chords from the vector, and you can see it's got the bass note, which is the C, or the root note of each custom chord, and then I've added in 3 different pitch notes, well, to some of the chords, and in some I've added one. In one I've added 1 note, and in one I've added no extra notes. And how it works on the vector is voice 1 is the big letter on the left, voice 2 is the low position, voice 3 is the middle position, voice 4 is the top position. And when you've got MIDI channel spread on, or you're routing out to, say, even just a CV controlled oscillator, it's really great because you can send those notes to the specific oscillator or tone generator that you want. The great thing about it being over MIDI is it's just really easy to combine your triggers or gates and your pitch into a very easy communication, rather than having to have multiple envelope generators and whatever else you want to do if you wanted to do it without MIDI. Which I could do as well. It just depends on what I want. So now I'm going to just move the camera over to the Disting, and I'm a little less confident with the Disting because I only had it, well, this particular one for 1 day. So let's move over to the Disting EX, and I'm going to go through the main settings here. So if we go and we press the top 2 encoders, we get back to the top view. Let's go to settings, and I excuse my finger being in the way of this screen sometimes. It's really hard to record this screen in this scenario. And yes, I know there's an expansion thing. I don't have any 1U space, and I don't kind of have the time to set up that iPad thing either. So you're just gonna have to bear with me. If we go to settings and we go to the where is it? MIDI I2C page 1, receive channel single 1, send channel single or transmit channel single 1. I've set that as 1 so that it matches what I did over on the vector, because I had channel spread over there from channel 1, and I need the Disting EX to also sort of start from that number as well. That'll make more sense in a minute. So let's go back out, and we're going to go to the algorithm now, which is Macro Oscillator, and we're going to check the options, and I've got MIDI notes enable 1. That means I'm going to expect MIDI notes in to control this algorithm. All right. You can set lowest and highest, just leave them as default. Go back up to settings, and what you'll see, I'm already on the screen for it. You might have to dial through to get to it, but what you do is you move your cursor to there and you move through using the right-hand encoder. What you want to do is go to MIDI option instance 1 and set it to 5. So instance 1, MIDI option, set it to 5. And also then set pitch trigger channel plus 0. Really important that you do that, because then it's basically saying to the EX, I expect pitch and trigger data to come in for Braids or the Macro Oscillator instance 1 on MIDI channel plus 0. Now, channel means 1. We configured that a second ago. And 1 plus 0 is also 1. So your first note in your 4-voice chord is going to come on channel 1. Now, if we go back up to instance 2, MIDI option 6, pitch and trigger is channel plus 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. You can see how we're getting that chord spread thing from the vector to tell the EX what to do. So instance 3, MIDI option 7, pitch trigger channel plus 2. So that's 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. Instance 4 is MIDI option 8, pitch and trigger channel plus 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. So you can see that I've aligned the channel spread on the vector to the channel plus setting. I'm going to call it channel spread as well on the Disting EX. This is why these two devices work so beautifully together, and I'm willing to overlook the fact that I really don't enjoy using the screen on the EX. With my eyesight, it's still a bit small. I know there's the 1U expansion prototype and things like that, but anyway. I like this functionality so much that I am using this module again. Okay, so what we need to do is then move to the actual algorithm itself. I'm just checking my notes. And so what you'll see, and when you land in the algorithm, I believe it starts on page 7, which is interesting in itself. And it gives you a choice of which model you want to play. So you can play seesaw, or you can play any number of different Braids oscillator types. Now I've chosen the triangle, square, flat one. That's the technical term. And what you need to do is then have a look at attack decay envelope or attack for voice 1. And I've got attack set to 0, so you know what that means. It's just going to start the envelope. And attack decay envelope on voice 1 is set to 9, so that's the amount of time it takes for the oscillator to chill out. I hope you can see this. Then if we go to page 16 here, oh, it's not 16, it's 15 rather. You've got attack decay VCA set to 1. If I set that to 0, the oscillator just starts going. If I set it to 1, then it waits for a trigger to trigger the envelope that we've configured previously. And that's for voice 1, remember. So what you then have to do is go through and set your model type for your next voice. I'll just change it to something else. That's the triangle, rectangle, square oscillator, technical term. Attack 0, decay 10, VCA is also selected to on. Well, that's rather a rude awakening, wasn't it? Let's go change that back to something that we know is a bit more friendly. All right, it'll do. And then we go through to the next one, scale 2. The next one. We've got a model set up for instance 3. And again, we've got our attack and our decay and our VCA. All right. And then we go to 4, model 4, set, attack, decay. All right. So that's pretty cool. The next thing you've got to do is, so once you've configured all of the oscillator shapes and the attack decay envelopes, and also the fact that the VCA needs to be enabled with that 1 setting, you need to go all the way up to number 61. Trigger source 1. You want to set that to auto. If you don't, then the MIDI thing won't work. The MIDI pitch and trigger of the voice won't work. And then you need to do it for trigger source 2. Okay, so that's page 65. And then page 69, you need to change that to 1 or to auto as well. So all of these need to be to auto. Okay, that's it. That's all you've got to do. Well, apart from actually like program some chords in. Now I've got what I'm going to do now is program in some notes on the vector as chords, or chords on the vector, that are going to then trigger the macro oscillator on the Disting EX, the 4 instances of it, to do stuff. So let's just bring the kick in to give a point of reference, and also because kick is good. I'm just going to push this encoder. It creates a trigger on step 3, and it's just triggering a C root note at the moment. So I can do shift, pull that down. Now that's just macro oscillator instance 1 on the Disting EX, because I'm only playing one note. Let's put another one in. Now I'm in the basic chord mode on the vector, which means that all I've got to do is turn the encoder underneath the step and it'll start doing extra stuff. So what I'm getting now is a C and a G, the 7th from C, 7th half step from G rather. And that's playing 2 notes. And then it's using 2 instances of the macro oscillator. If I do this over here, I'm getting 2 notes on each chord step now. Alright, that's great, but what about those other 2 oscillators that are ready to take some notes over on the Disting EX? Thank you very much. There you go. If you could see the EX now, you'd see that it was firing out 3 notes on step 3 and 2 notes on step 7. And the 3 notes on step 3 are firing up 3 instances of braids. And the 2 notes on step 7 are firing up 2 instances of braids for the micro oscillator on the EX. Let's just thin that out. Now, sorry, you would have seen that was a C capital M there, but it sounds like a minor, and it is a minor in fact, because this part is quantized to C minor. Okay? So it'll only play notes within that. You can, of course, play in chromatic on the vector and not have it quantized, but that's how I've got it set up. Augmented. Diminished. Major 7th, which is probably minor 7th, because of the quantization. Now I'm firing out 4 notes, so 4 instances of the macro oscillator. Now that's all well and good, but what if you just want to play some chords in yourself and you don't want to use these kind of preset bizzos? Glad you asked. Shift, edit, press, encoder 9. And you can see that's nice and neatly telling us what the numerical representation is of that voice. So you can now go in and use encoder 9 to dial the cursor around, and I can change. Sounds like an action scene building up to a car exploding or something, except for the fact that it's so moderately voiced. So that's an octave of the 10 that was there previously, because it's got that little hat. So 10, 3, 7, 10, that's all within one closed voice octave. Little hat, and so that's the 10th note, which is what? Going to be a B. Yeah, so, sorry, a B flat. So yeah, that's the little hat designates that it's an octave up. So what I can do with that then is bring that one back in. Bass note there, haven't we? Okay, the other thing you can do that's really fun no one's going to award me for artistic genius here, but maybe if I apply some Strim and Starlab, they will. Maybe not. Oh wow, computer game. So you can see how easy that was. The benefit of this approach is I'm pretty much getting a nice polyphonic voice in the space of, let's say, 8 HP plus 2 HP on the EX side with the MIDI XO input. And you're off to the races pretty much. And of course you can have the different attack and decay on each voice on the Macro Oscillator. And you can fully just do what you want as far as, you know, sending your chord notes into it via MIDI. It's really good fun. I do think that the chord mode on the Vector with the channel spread and the channel plus mode on the EX are really well made to work together. It's not the only device that does it, of course, but it's the two that I have right now that use that make it really easy. So look, this was a bit long. Some of the settings on the EX, I mean, I just had to work them out. I read the manual and I just mucked around until I found it. I think I sent Oz an email, and by the time I sort of spent a minute longer than writing the email, I kind of worked it out. So hopefully this video might help someone out there who's pairing these two together or has a sequencer that maybe operates in a similar way with the EX, because it's loads of fun.